We have named the script, the good girl archetype. We have met the shadow it creates. But a map is useless if you cannot see the road. So the great question remains. How do you catch this program in the act? How do you see something that is, by its very nature, unconscious? The answer is that the unconscious program leaves conscious symptoms. It leaves clues. They are not loud. They do not announce themselves. They disguise themselves as just a bad mood, or being too sensitive, or stress from work. Until you learn to read these signs for what they truly are, you will remain a puppet to a script you don't even know you're following. You will treat the symptoms, but you will never understand the cause. Carl Jung taught that the first step to true self-awareness is to recognize the shadow within ourselves, not as a concept, but as a living, breathing force that influences our daily lives. So today, we become detectives of the psyche. We will not talk about abstract theory. We will talk about evidence. 7 specific, recurring, and often overlooked signs that your shadow, born from the need to be nice, is in the driver's seat. Some of these signs will feel subtle, a quiet recognition. Others may feel like looking directly into a mirror for the very first time. This is not about finding more flaws in yourself. It is about finding the keys to your own freedom. Because once you learn to see the pattern, you finally gain the power to change it. Let's turn on the lights. Before we begin, a gentle reminder. This is not an exercise in self-criticism. This is an act of self-discovery. As we go through these signs, the goal is not to judge yourself for having them, but to feel a quiet sense of recognition. A soft, "Ah, yes, that's me." Each sign you recognize is not a flaw. It is a doorway, a portal into deeper self-understanding. Let us begin with the first and perhaps most common sign. Sign number 1, the disproportionate reaction. You know this experience intimately. You have navigated a day of immense pressure with what appears to be effortless grace. You handled a condescending comment from your boss, a last-minute project deadline, a phone call delivering difficult news about a family member, and a traffic jam on the way home. You absorbed it all. You were the model of calm competence. Your persona was flawless. You walk through your front door, finally seeking sanctuary, and you see it. A pair of shoes left in the middle of the hallway. Or you open the fridge and the milk carton is empty. A trivial, meaningless, everyday occurrence. And something inside you does not just get annoyed, it detonates. A tidal wave of white-hot rage surges through your body. A reaction so immense, so utterly out of proportion to the trigger, that it feels like you've been possessed. The words that come out of your mouth are sharp, cutting, and shocking even to your own ears. In the stunned silence that follows, a cold wave of shame washes over you. You retreat into yourself, thinking, "What is wrong with me? Why did I scream about a milk carton? I'm a terrible person. I'm out of control." Pause with me here. That explosion was not about the milk. It was never about the milk. The disproportionate reaction is the number 1 sign that your shadow is running the show. It is the cry of a system that is at its breaking point. Imagine your soul as a container. All day, you have been stuffing it with unexpressed feelings. The frustration from your boss's comment, the anxiety about the deadline, the grief from the phone call. You push it all down, telling yourself to be professional, be strong, don't make a fuss. By the time you get home, the container is full to the brim. It is under immense pressure. The empty milk carton is not the cause of the explosion. It is merely the final tiny snowflake that triggers the avalanche. It is the spark that ignites the gas-filled room. The shadow operates on stored energy. The rage you felt was not a new rage created in that moment. It was the accumulated, unexpressed rage from your entire day, or week, or even month, finally finding a safe and seemingly justifiable outlet. So, the first act of a psychic detective is to ask, when you have a big reaction to a small thing, what is this really about? What is the feeling underneath this feeling? Where else today did I feel this anger but chose to swallow it? This line of questioning shifts you from self-blame to self-inquiry, and that changes everything. Sign number 2. The potent annoyance or judgment of others. This sign is more subtle, but equally powerful. It lives in your internal monologue. Let's talk about a character you might recognize. Let's call her Brenda. Brenda is a woman in your yoga class. She always arrives late, rolls her mat out loudly in the front row, and then spends half the class modifying poses to be more advanced. After class, she talks endlessly and loudly about her new spiritual retreat or her amazing promotion at work. And you find her insufferable. You feel a visceral, almost allergic reaction to her very presence. You might gossip about her with a friend later. Can you believe the nerve of her? She's so arrogant, so selfish. Your judgment feels righteous. It feels true. She is annoying. But a Jungian perspective invites a deeper, more uncomfortable question. Why her? Why does Brenda get under your skin in a way that others do not? This potent emotional charge, this is not just a simple dislike. This is the shadow's calling card. Carl Jung called this projection. We take a quality we have denied and disowned in ourselves, and we project it onto someone else where it is safer to see it and despise it. The good girl archetype is built on the rule, thou shalt not take up space, thou shalt be humble. Brenda, in her magnificent, unapologetic arrogance, is violating your most sacred, unconscious rule. She takes up space, literally and figuratively. She is not humble. She celebrates herself. Your intense annoyance is a sign. It is a giant, flashing arrow pointing to a part of your own soul that you have exiled. The part of you that secretly longs to be seen. The part that wishes it could celebrate its own accomplishments without feeling like a fraud. The part that wants to take up more space in its own life. You don't want to be Brenda, but her freedom is triggering the pain of your own confinement. Your shadow is not angry at Brenda. It is angry at you for not allowing yourself the same permission. So, the next time you feel that potent, visceral judgment of someone else, pause. Ask yourself, what specific quality in this person is triggering me so intensely? What freedom do they have that I have denied myself? The people who trigger us most are not our enemies. They are our mirrors, showing us the lost parts of ourselves we need to reclaim. Sign number 3. The unexplained physical symptom. The body keeps the score. This is not just a poetic phrase. It is a deep psychological and biological truth. The energy of suppressed emotions has to go somewhere, and when it is not processed psychologically, it often manifests physically. Think of it. That recurring tension headache that always seems to flare up on Sunday nights as you dread the coming work week where you have to be on all the time. The knot in your stomach or the irritable bowel syndrome that gets worse when you have to attend a family gathering where you know you'll have to play the role of the happy, accommodating peacekeeper. Or perhaps it's a tightness in your throat when you want to speak up in a meeting but don't.
a persistent ache in your lower back, the place that physically carries our burdens. We are taught to treat these as purely medical issues, and they may well have medical components. But for the person operating from the good girl archetype, these physical symptoms are often the voice of the shadow, speaking in the only language it is allowed to use, the language of the body. Your headache is not just a headache, it is the physical manifestation of unexpressed frustration. Your stomach issues are not just digestive problems, they are the result of swallowing too much resentment. Your fatigue is not just tiredness, it is the weight of a persona that has become too heavy to carry. Your shadow is communicating with you through your body. It is trying to get your attention in the only way it knows how, because you have become deaf to its emotional whispers. The practice here is one of gentle curiosity. The next time you feel that familiar, unexplained ache or pain, don't just reach for a pill. Pause, place your hand on that part of your body, and ask it with kindness, what are you trying to tell me? What feeling is stored here? If this pain had a voice, what would it say? You might be surprised by the answers that arise from the quiet wisdom of your own body. It is often a far more honest messenger than your conscious mind.
We have illuminated the first 3 clues: the disproportionate reaction, the potent judgment of others, and the unexplained physical symptom. If you have recognized yourself in any of these, you are already well on your way. You are beginning to see the invisible. Now, we venture deeper into the more subtle and often more revealing signs that your shadow is at the wheel. Sign number 4, the compulsive need to stay busy. What does your weekend look like? If you are honest with yourself, does the idea of a completely unplanned, unstructured day fill you with a low-grade sense of anxiety? You tell yourself and others that you like to be productive, or that you can't relax until everything is done. So you fill the quiet spaces. You schedule errands, coffee dates, home improvement projects, endless cleaning. You create a fortress of activity, a bulwark against the threatening tide of stillness. This is not about being a hard worker. This is about being an escape artist. The compulsive need to stay busy is a sophisticated strategy of the shadow, because in the silence, in the stillness, the things you have suppressed begin to rise. The quiet resentment, the feeling of emptiness, the grief for a life not fully lived, the uncomfortable questions about the state of your marriage or your career. These feelings are the whispers of your shadow self, and they are terrifying. So, the persona, the good girl who must always be capable and in control, creates a smokescreen of busyness. Productivity becomes a drug, a way to numb yourself to the discomfort of your own inner world. Being busy feels safer than being honest. Let's talk about Mark, a 52-year-old executive. He works 60 hours a week, and on weekends, he is consumed with yard work, coaching his kids' sports teams, and organizing community events. His wife complains that he's never present. He tells her he's doing all of this for the family. But the unspoken truth, the truth his shadow knows, is that he is terrified of what would happen if he stopped. If he stopped, he would have to face the hollow feeling in his own chest. He would have to talk to his wife about the distance that has grown between them. He would have to admit to himself that the career he has sacrificed so much for no longer brings him joy. His busyness is a shield against his own life. Pause and ask yourself, what am I avoiding when I fill my life with activity? What feeling or truth might surface if I allowed myself to simply be still for 1 hour? Your relationship with stillness is a direct reflection of your relationship with your own shadow. Sign number 5, a pattern of attracting needy people or projects. Do you find yourself surrounded by people who seem to need constant help? The friend who is always in a crisis, the partner who can't seem to manage their own life, the colleague who always needs you to fix their mistakes. You might call this the savior complex. You become the rescuer, the fixer, the one who swoops in to save the day. It feels noble. It feels like you are being a good, compassionate person. And on one level, you are. But from a shadow perspective, a deeper dynamic is at play. Remember, the good girl archetype denies her own needs. Her shadow becomes a creature of desperate, disowned neediness. By surrounding yourself with people you perceive as needy, you create a safe outlet for this exiled part of yourself. You get to pour your own suppressed need for care and attention onto them. You are in essence trying to mother your own disowned inner child by mothering everyone around you. Furthermore, being the rescuer keeps you in a position of power and control. It feels safer to be the one giving help than the one needing it. It reinforces the persona's identity as the capable one. But it comes at a tremendous cost. It drains your energy, and it prevents you from forming truly equal adult relationships. You are not relating to them as a peer. You are relating to them as a caretaker. And deep down, the shadow's resentment builds, because while you are busy saving everyone else, no one is coming to save you. The question to ask is not, why am I so unlucky to be surrounded by needy people? The question is, what role does being the rescuer play in my own life? What need of my own am I trying to meet by fixing others? What would happen if I let the people around me be responsible for their own lives? Sign number 6. Chronic indecision or brain fog. Do you struggle to make decisions, even small ones? What to have for dinner? Which movie to watch? What to wear? Does your mind go blank when someone asks, "What do you want to do?" This is not a sign of low intelligence. This is often a sign of a deeply suppressed shadow. The good girl archetype learns from a very young age that her own desires are secondary or even dangerous. To be good, she must attune to the desires of others. She becomes an expert at reading the room, at sensing what everyone else wants, and then adapting to that. Over decades, this becomes so automatic that the muscle of her own desire atrophies. She literally loses touch with what she wants. Her own "I want" has been so consistently overridden in favor of "what do they want" that the signal has become incredibly faint. So when faced with a choice, her mind goes into a state of brain fog or paralysis. It's a state of psychic confusion. Her persona is frantically trying to calculate the right answer, the one that will please everyone and cause no conflict. Meanwhile, her shadow, which holds her true, buried desires, is locked in the basement, its voice too faint to be heard. The result is a state of frustrating, exhausting indecision. You genuinely do not know what you want. This is a profound sign that you have become disconnected from your own inner guidance system. The practice here is to start incredibly small. Don't start by asking, "What is my life's purpose?" Start by standing in front of the coffee mugs in your cabinet and ask with genuine curiosity, "Which mug do I?" It sounds absurdly simple, but you are retraining your mind to listen for your own signal, however faint. You are rebuilding the bridge to your own desires. Sign number 7, a secret envy or a sense of unfairness. This is the final and perhaps most difficult sign to admit to ourselves. You are scrolling through social media.
You see an acquaintance post about her solo trip to Italy, or a colleague announce a bold career change, and you feel a sting, a hot, sharp feeling in your chest. It is envy. Your conscious mind immediately swats it away. You click like. You might even leave a comment, "So happy for you." But the feeling lingers, a bitter aftertaste, a sense of, "Why not me? It's not fair." This envy is the whisper of your unlived life. It is the grief of your shadow for all the risks you didn't take, the desires you didn't honor, the adventures you told yourself were irresponsible or selfish. So the good girl is not allowed to be ambitious for her own sake. She is not allowed to be adventurous. She is not allowed to put her own frivolous desires first. So when you see another woman doing exactly that, it touches the raw nerve of your own self-betrayal. Your envy is not a sign that you are a bad person. It is a sacred map. It is your soul speaking through the voice of the shadow, pointing directly at what it longs for. The envy you feel towards the traveler is your own longing for freedom. The envy you feel towards the entrepreneur is your own longing for creative expression and autonomy. Instead of drowning your envy in shame, get curious about it. The next time you feel that sting, ask yourself,
What specific thing about this person's life am I envious of? What value or desire of my own is this envy pointing to? Your envy, when listened to with compassion, becomes your compass. It stops being a source of pain and becomes a source of guidance, pointing you back to the forgotten treasures buried within your own shadow. We have walked through the 7 signs, the disproportionate reaction, the potent judgment of others, the unexplained physical symptom, the compulsive busyness, the pattern of rescuing, the chronic indecisiveness, and the secret sting of envy. It is likely that you have felt a resonance with more than one, perhaps many. The first natural reaction might be a sense of discouragement, a feeling of, "I'm even more broken than I thought." You might see these signs as a list of your failures, a diagnostic chart of your flaws. This is the old programming talking, the voice of the inner critic, which is a key feature of the good girl archetype. So, before we move forward, we must perform the most crucial act of this entire process. We must reframe what these signs truly mean. These 7 signs are not evidence of your brokenness. They are proof of your wholeness. They are evidence of a deep, intelligent, and fiercely loyal part of your psyche that is refusing to let you abandon yourself completely. Your shadow is not your enemy. It is the part of you that has never stopped fighting for your life. Your disproportionate rage is not a sign of instability. It is the cry of a part of you that has been silenced for too long. It is fighting for your right to be heard. Your judgment of others is not a sign of your meanness. It is a map pointing to the freedoms you have denied yourself. It is fighting for your right to be authentic. Your physical pain is not a sign of your weakness. It is your body's desperate attempt to get your attention when your mind will not listen. It is fighting for your right to rest and heal. Your busyness is not a sign of your productivity. It is a shield against profound pain. It is fighting for your right to feel your own truth. Your rescuing is not a sign of your compassion alone. It is a distorted attempt to care for your own inner child. It is fighting for your right to be nurtured. Your indecisiveness is not a sign of your incompetence. It is the confusion of a soul that has lost its own compass. It is fighting for your right to have desires. Your envy is not a sign of your pettiness. It is the grief of your unlived life. It is fighting for your right to be adventurous and bold. Do you see the shift? The shadow is not the villain of your story. It is the misunderstood hero, speaking a language of symptoms because you have been deaf to its direct requests. The work then is not to fix these 7 flaws. The work is to learn the language of your own soul. It is to begin a new kind of relationship with these exiled parts of yourself, one based on curiosity and compassion, not on judgment and fear. So, what does this look like in practice? It does not begin with a grand gesture. You do not need to quit your job or leave your family to find yourself. That is the fantasy of the overwhelmed shadow. The real work is quieter, it is smaller, and it is far more profound. It begins with the practice of the sacred pause. This is your foundational tool, your primary instrument. The Good Girl program runs on automatic. It is reactive. The sacred pause is the act of inserting a moment of consciousness between a trigger and your habitual reaction. The phone rings with a request you know you should refuse. Before your mouth automatically says yes, you pause. You take one deep breath. The sacred pause. You see the messy kitchen and feel the rage beginning to build. You pause. You place a hand on your heart. You feel the sting of envy while scrolling. You pause. You close your eyes for a moment. This pause might only last for 3 seconds, but in those 3 seconds, you have interrupted a lifetime of unconscious programming. In that pause, you create a space, and in that space, you have a choice. You can choose the old path, the path of the persona, or you can choose a new one. Let's imagine Chloe, our recurring character. She has recognized all 7 signs in herself. She feels overwhelmed. Her practice starts on a Tuesday morning. Her boss sends a last-minute email asking for a report by the end of the day, something that will require her to stay late. The old program kicks in instantly, the feeling of obligation, the fear of not being seen as a team player, the automatic impulse to reply, "Of course, I'll get it done." But today, she remembers the practice. She takes one deep breath, the sacred pause. In that 3-second pause, she asks herself one of our new questions. What do I need right now? And the answer that whispers back is, I need to leave on time today to go to my son's school play. That is what truly matters. She notices the anger rising, the anger that her boss assumes her time is endlessly available. She listens to the anger's message. My personal time is valuable and deserves respect. Now, in the space created by the pause, she has a choice. The old Chloe would have sacrificed her son's play, stayed late, and simmered in a pot of silent resentment all evening. The new Chloe, the one in training, writes a different response. I understand the urgency of this report. I can complete the first half by the end of today and will have the rest finished for you first thing tomorrow morning, as I have a prior family commitment this evening. It is a simple email. It is polite. It is professional. But it is a revolution. It is an act of holding both realities, her professional responsibility and her personal, deeply felt need. She is not rejecting one for the other. She is integrating them. She is honoring the truth. This is the work. It is the accumulation of hundreds of these small revolutionary moments. Moments where you pause. You listen to the sign your shadow is giving you. You get curious about its message. And you make a choice, however small, that is more aligned with your whole authentic self. You are not trying to get rid of your shadow. You are learning to dance with it. You are learning that its scary, distorted voice is just a compass pointing you back home. And with each conscious choice, the path becomes a little clearer, and the voice of your own soul becomes a little stronger. Today, we did not just talk about a theory. We became detectives of our own inner lives. We pulled back the curtain on the subtle, often invisible ways the shadow makes its presence known. We identified the 7 signs, the disproportionate reaction, the potent judgment, the unexplained physical symptom, the compulsive busyness, the pattern of rescuing, the chronic indecisiveness, and the secret sting of envy. We learned to see these not as flaws to be eradicated, but as messengers to be understood, as proof of a part of you that is fighting for your wholeness. And we discovered the power of the sacred pause, the foundational practice for interrupting a lifetime of unconscious programming and creating the space for a new choice. The journey of shadow work, of integrating these lost parts of yourself, is not about becoming a perfect person. It is about becoming a whole person. It is about having the courage to be complex, to be contradictory, to be human. It means accepting that you can be both kind and have firm boundaries, that you can be both generous and honor your own needs, that you can be both a responsible adult and someone who fiercely protects their own inner joy and freedom. The ultimate goal of this work, as Carl Jung described it, is individuation. It is the process of becoming an individual, a single, unified, and whole being, no longer divided against oneself. It is the process of retrieving the authority for your own life from the hands of old archetypes and cultural expectations and placing it firmly back in the center of your own soul. This path is not easy. It requires courage, the courage to look at things you've spent a lifetime avoiding, the courage to feel uncomfortable, the courage to disappoint others in the service of not betraying yourself. But this path, unlike the path of the people-pleaser, leads to a place of genuine, solid, and unshakable peace, a peace that is not dependent on external validation, but is generated from within. As you begin to practice the sacred pause, as you start to notice these 7 signs in your daily life, you will become more sensitive to the voice of your own truth. But with this new awareness, another natural question arises. We've spoken a great deal about anger. We've identified it as a key messenger, a sign of a boundary being crossed. We've seen how, when suppressed, it becomes the toxic resentment that fuels so much of the shadow's pain. But what do we do with it? How do we relate to this powerful, often terrifying emotion in a healthy way? The good girl archetype taught us that anger is bad, that it is dangerous. So when it arises, we are left with only 2 options: suppress it until we get sick, or explode in a way that damages our relationships. There must be another way, a third way. How do you honor the message of your anger without letting it consume you? How do you express it cleanly, without blame or attack? And where exactly does all that suppressed rage from your past go? Understanding the mechanics and the wisdom of your own anger is one of the most critical skills on the path to wholeness. It is the key to unlocking true strength and setting effective boundaries. And that is precisely where our journey will take us next.